Imagine you're at the grocery store, tossing a loaf of bread into your cart. It's just bread, right? A few bucks, nothing fancy. But what if I told you that the price of that bread, and pretty much everything in your kitchen, is quietly controlled by just 4 companies? Not governments, not farmers, but 4 shadowy giants who decide how much you pay for your morning cereal, your burger bun, or even the sugar in your coffee. Welcome to the world of the grain cartel. They're called the ABCD companies: Archer Daniels Midland, Bunge, Cargill, and Lewis Dreyfus, and they control up to 90% of the global grain trade. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on how these 4 players shape what you eat, how much you pay, and why global hunger is getting worse despite their record-breaking profits. Buckle up. It's a wild ride through the world of food, power, and some serious corporate chess moves. Let's meet the ABCDs. Think of them as the puppet masters of the global food system. These aren't your friendly neighborhood farmers. They're multinational corporations that trade, process, and ship the grains that feed the world. Wheat, corn, soy, rice, you name it, they control it. According to Oxfam, they handle 70–90% of the global grain trade. That's like 4 guys deciding what goes on every plate from New York to Nairobi. Here's the lineup. Archer Daniels Midland, or ADM, based in the US, they're the soybean kings, processing enough to make your tofu, your chicken feed, and even the oil in your salad dressing. In 2022, they posted record profits while the world grappled with a food crisis. Bunge, also US-based, dominates South America, exporting soybeans and wheat like nobody's business. Cargill, the biggest of the bunch, is a private US company that raked in $165 billion in revenue in 2022, more than the GDP of countries like Qatar or Hungary. And Lewis Dreyfus, a Dutch firm, is the world's largest trader of cotton and rice, with a heavy hand in the sugar market. These companies don't just trade grain, they own the entire supply chain. From the seeds farmers plant to the ships that deliver grain to your country, they've got their fingers in every pie. It's like they're playing a giant game of Monopoly, except the board is your dinner table, and they've already bought Boardwalk and Park Place. So, how do 4 companies hold so much power? Let's break it down with a simple analogy. Picture the global food system as a giant kitchen. The ABCDs aren't just the chefs, they own the ingredients, the stove, the delivery truck, and even the recipe book. First, they control the supply. The ABCDs buy grain from farmers, store it in massive silos, and decide when and where to sell it. In 2021, just 7 countries plus the EU accounted for 90% of global wheat exports, and the ABCDs dominate those markets, according to the USDA. If they hold back grain, prices spike, and your bread costs more. If they flood the market, prices drop, and farmers get squeezed. It's like they've got the world's food supply on a dimmer switch, and they're the ones flicking it. Second, they're vertically integrated, fancy talk for owning everything. They sell seeds and fertilizers to farmers, process grains into flour, oil, or ethanol, and ship it across the globe. They even dabble in biofuels and animal feed. Imagine one company owning your local supermarket, the farm that grows your veggies, the truck that delivers them, and the company that makes the packaging. That's the ABCD's playbook. According to a 2024 report by SOMO, this control lets them dictate terms at every step, from farm to fork. Third, they operate in the shadows. These companies don't have to tell anyone how much grain they're holding. During the 2022 food crisis, the UN reported food prices soared 20%, yet global grain reserves were supposedly abundant. Why the disconnect? Nobody knows exactly what the ABCDs are doing with their stocks. It's like playing poker with someone who hides their cards and somehow always wins. And it gets spicier. In 2008, Argentina accused the ABCDs of dodging nearly $1 billion in taxes by funneling profits through tax havens. They denied the allegations, but it's a glimpse into how these giants play hardball. More recently, in 2023, reports surfaced of the ABCDs benefiting from price volatility during the Ukraine crisis, with Cargill and ADM posting record profits while grain prices hit historic highs. Coincidence? I'll let you decide. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about how this started. The ABCDs didn't just wake up one day and decide to rule the world's food supply. Their power grew over decades, starting in the 19th century when companies like Cargill and Louis Dreyfus began as small grain traders. Fast forward to the 20th century, globalization and industrial agriculture turned them into behemoths. Trade deals, like those pushed by the World Trade Organization, opened markets, and the ABCDs swooped in, buying up infrastructure and locking in their dominance. By the 2000s, they were untouchable, controlling not just grain but the systems that move it, ports, railways, even futures markets where grain prices are set. Here's a real-world example to make this stick. Picture a farmer in Iowa growing corn. He sells to Cargill because, well, who else is there? Cargill also sold him the seeds and fertilizer, so they're already in his pocket. If corn prices drop, say, because the ABCDs flood the market, he's forced to sell at a loss. Meanwhile, Cargill processes that corn into ethanol, animal feed, or high-fructose corn syrup, selling it for a tidy profit. The farmer's struggling, but Cargill's laughing all the way to the bank. Now, why should you care? Because when the ABCDs make moves, your grocery bill feels it. In 2022, Russia's invasion of Ukraine disrupted grain exports, and food prices skyrocketed. The UN reported 345 million people faced acute food insecurity, more than double the number before COVID. Meanwhile, Cargill's revenues jumped 23% to a record $165 billion, and ADM hit its highest profits ever. The Guardian called it a profit bonanza for the ABCDs while millions went hungry. Let's make it personal. Imagine you're in a small African country like Ethiopia, heavily reliant on imported wheat. When the ABCD's supply chain decisions drive up prices, your family can't afford bread. In 2022, the World Bank noted that soaring grain prices pushed 70 million more people into poverty. Or think about your own grocery store. That loaf of bread that cost $2 a few years ago? It's now $3 or $4, and part of that hike traces back to the ABCD's grip on the market. But it's not just about prices. These companies influence global policies. Their lobbying muscle shapes trade agreements, agricultural subsidies, and even environmental regulations. They push for policies that favor industrial farming, often at the expense of small farmers or sustainable practices. It's like they're writing the rules of a game they're already winning, and the rest of us are just pawns. So, are we doomed to let 4 companies control our food? Not entirely. Experts like Olivier de Schutter, a UN special rapporteur, argue we can fight back. First, demand more transparency. Governments could force the ABCDs to disclose their grain stocks, no more hiding cards in the poker game. Second, support small farmers. Policies that prioritize local agriculture could loosen the ABCD's grip. Imagine farmers' markets on steroids, with governments backing small producers over corporate giants. Third, regulate monopolies. Antitrust laws could break up their control, making the food system more competitive. But let's be real. These companies are powerful. They've got deep pockets, armies of lobbyists, and decades of influence. Change won't happen overnight. For example, in 2011, the G20 discussed regulating commodity markets to curb price volatility, but the ABCD's influence watered down those efforts. It's a David versus Goliath battle, and Goliath's got a lot of grain silos. There's also something you can do. Start asking questions about where your food comes from. Support local farmers when you can. Buy from a farmer's market or a co-op. It's a small step, but if enough people demand change, it could ripple through the system. After all, even giants like the ABCDs rely on consumers like you. So, next time you grab a loaf of bread or a bowl of cereal, remember, the grain cartel is in your kitchen. 4 companies, ADM, Bunge, Cargill, and Louis Dreyfus, are calling the shots on what you eat and how much you pay. They're raking in billions while millions go hungry. Here's a question to chew on. If 4 companies can control the world's food, what else are a handful of corporations quietly controlling in your life? Your phone, your gas, your data, maybe even your news. The grain cartel might just be the tip of the iceberg. Drop a comment. Do you think we can break the grip of the grain cartel, or are we stuck playing by their rules? See you in the next video, where we'll uncover another corner of the global economy. Stay curious, stay sharp, and don't let the cartel sneak into your pantry unnoticed.